Hey everyone, Michelle here. I am pretty excited to be sharing some content with you today. Before we get into anything, I just want to do a little bit of, I don't know, mom to mom, I guess. I had a pretty good morning. Both my little ones are a little sick. Um, we had to give my 2-year-old a bath. Actually, both of them, we had to give them both a bath at around 11 o'clock because it was just one of those mornings. And then I turn around and I see my 2-year-old with this little thing. I don't know if you know what this is, but it's a little cup that goes on the side of the toilet to cover up the screws that I guess bolt the toilet into the floor. Anyways, she was using it as a cup to drink water. So that was fun. She's sleeping now, which is nice. And my littlest is here on the couch, hoping he's going to stay sleeping this time around. But my video today is called What the F? And the reason why I called it that is because I want to talk about foundation. You know, not really fully understanding the difference between all the products that are out there can really make things super confusing. And before I go into tutorials about foundation and eyebrows and shadows and all that kind of stuff, sometimes we need to learn about the basics before we can get to that point. So I'm just going to do a video today on the different types of foundations, just explaining everything. And it'll also be a good reference point if you're like, oh my gosh, I can't remember what this is for, or what kind of foundation should I be wearing? And then you can reference back, which is always great. So I first want to talk about CC cream and BB creams. If you're the type of person who doesn't want to wear a whole lot of product, doesn't have time to put a whole lot of product on, you don't like the feeling of makeup on your face, which I find a lot of people do have that, where they don't like to feel the product on their face. But if you do have redness and unevenness in the complexion of your skin, then using a BB cream or a CC cream is probably going to be a really great product for you to purchase in terms of makeup. So a CC cream is a color corrector and a BB cream is a beauty balm. Both are helping to correct the skin, even the complexion of the skin, without giving you full coverage or a foundation-like effect. A BB cream tends to be a little bit, they said a little bit heavier. I said they, like I did a little bit of research, and people have written that BB creams tend to be a little bit moussier in the texture, but to be honest with you, nowadays, there can be so many different types of consistencies. So BB cream and CC creams are almost like a tinted moisturizer, maybe with a little bit more coverage than a tinted moisturizer, depending on what brand you're using and whatnot. So, they're really going to help to, like I said, even the complexion, minimize redness, very light finish, so they are easy to blend in. They're generally really hydrating, so they make your skin feel really moisturized. And the great thing about using a BB cream or CC cream too is also the fact that it cuts time. So if you have one that is hydrating and moisturizing, you could use it instead of your moisturizer, or you can put it right over top of your moisturizer, rubbing it in with your hands, and it's a pretty quick application. So that's that. The next thing I'm going to talk about is foundation. So generally, as a rule of thumb, foundations are going to be giving you different types of coverage in terms of liquid foundation. If you are more of a drier skin type, you're going to want to work a little bit more with a liquid versus using only a powder foundation, only because for the most part, they do help to give a little bit more hydration to the skin, and you won't see any of that flakiness, especially in your drier areas, which tend to be, forehead and cheek area. So just as a basics, that's a good kind of rule of thumb, depending on your skin tone. With that being said, if you do have an oilier T-zone, which is this area here, which is very common that you have oilier in that area and drier in the cheek area, you can still wear a liquid foundation. You just might want to look at the consistency of it or the finish of it. So there is a matte finish, which is oil absorbing, which helps to minimize any excess shine in the skin. So if you do get shiny in that area, or if you're oily all over, you can use the liquid foundation that has a matte finish in order to minimize that shine, give a really nice even complexion with a fuller coverage than a BB or CC cream, and then you could apply a powder over top to finish off. A fuller coverage liquid foundation tends to be a heavier consistency, so you are going to get a lot more when you apply it onto the skin. If you have rosacea, like really, really red cheeks, if you have breakouts, pimples, acne, any redness, if you have discoloration, if you have any sort of hyperpigmentation, so like a pregnancy mask, or hyperpigmentation due to sunspots and whatnot, where you're getting like a very obvious darker area and lighter area in your skin, then a fuller coverage foundation might be something that you're looking for, because it's going to cover and even all of that on your face and give you more of an even complexion, so that you can kind of start with a blank canvas after you've applied it to apply anything else, your blush, your contour, your highlight, any of that stuff. So that's a full coverage. There's also like a light to medium coverage, which is going to be not as thick of a consistency. And generally you'll see it on the actual package. So for example, let me see here. For example, I have 2 Urban Decay foundations, both of which are fantastic. We have the All Nighter foundation, and we have the Naked Skin foundation. So the main difference between these is that the All Nighter is a full coverage foundation. It says it right on there. It's giving you more of a matte finish. So if you are really dry, it may not be the best for you, but you are getting that thicker consistency, like I said. The Naked Skin is a light to medium foundation. It's a buildable foundation, which generally tends to be the case with these types of foundations, where you can get a really light application if you want. If you don't want to have a whole lot of product on your face, it's a lot more liquidy, so you kind of have to shake it up. But the nice thing about it too is you can apply it to your face with your hands, with your beauty blender, or with your brush, or with a sponge, and you can apply more in certain areas that you may need it without having too much product on your face. So if you have rosacea in your cheek area, you could put this on your whole face, and then you could take your beauty blender or your brush and add a little bit more just in that area to give a little bit of a fuller coverage, again, without it looking or feeling like you have a whole lot of makeup on. And these are great, again, for people who don't want to have a lot of product on their face. If you want something that's a little bit more than your tinted moisturizer that you might wear during the day if you're going out, and you want something a little bit with fuller coverage, then the light to medium buildable foundation might be something that you would prefer to wear, because you're going to get a little bit more out of it. Okay, so now we're going to talk about, I have some notes just so that I make sure I'm not missing anything. So in regards to the liquid foundation, yes, if you are oilier, there is that matte option, which is great. If you are drier, you always want to make sure that you are putting on a good moisturizer before you put your foundation on. And even if you have an oilier skin type, you still want to put a moisturizer on. There's lots of really great oil-free moisturizers out there that are going to help to give your skin the nutrients that it needs without adding oil. And that's really important, because what tends to happen is you have an oilier skin, you don't put on any moisturizer because you think, oh, well, my skin is oily, so I don't need the moisture. You put on a foundation that may be mattifying, but may not be, if that's something that you've paid attention to in the past. And then, 3 hours in, you're like, oh my gosh, my skin is so oily. And that's really because prepping your skin is really going to impact how your skin, the oils in your skin process throughout the day, and products are really going to help with that. So especially if you don't know a whole lot about product, it's about understanding the basics. So a basic moisturizer. For a drier skin, you want something with moisture. For an oilier skin, you want something that's oil-free, but that still has water in it to help with giving your skin a little bit extra nutrients without adding that excess oil, because you don't need it. Your foundation is either going to be hydrating with some essential oils and moisture, or it's going to be oil-free and mattifying to help minimize any of that excess oil and to not add any oil to your skin, because if you're oily, you don't need it. Now I'm going to talk about powder. So there's generally two types of powders. There's a loose powder and a pressed powder. So a loose powder is going to come in a tub like this, and obviously it's loose. It's not compacted. So with loose powders, there's a loose powder foundations that you can use it with a sponge, but you can also, if you are more oily, or if you're looking for a really full coverage, loose powders can give you a really full coverage. It just will depend on the brush that you're using when you're applying it. So when you're applying a powder and you want a full coverage, and even a liquid too, you want to be using the type of brush that is more dense. So it has shorter bristles, it's a little bit thicker, not fluffy like this. So you can see the difference between these two brushes that you can apply foundation with. This one is a lot shorter, the bristles are a lot tighter together, where this one is used and a little bit older, but the bristles are longer and a little bit fuller. So you're going to get, the product is going to stay compacted into one area to give you that full coverage effect, and you're going to kind of stipple it onto the skin in order to give you that full coverage effect. So if you're putting a foundation powder on with one of these, you're going to get a really full coverage out of it. Now, if you wanted to use a loose powder as a finishing powder, so sometimes I'll put my foundation on and I want to get a little bit more full coverage because I have, you can see some of my breakouts and redness and whatnot. I put my full coverage foundation on, and then I'll use my loose powder foundation with a fluffy brush, and I just dust that really loosely over the skin to set the product, to set the foundation, to add a little bit of color, and so that I'm getting that foundation effect without that full coverage. I hope that makes sense. The other type of loose powder there is a setting powder. So this is a really popular setting powder. It's the Laura Mercier setting powder. It's called Loose Setting Powder Translucent by Laura Mercier. And again, it's loose. The nice thing about this though is that it has no color to it. So on pretty much any skin tone, you can use this, and you may see on other YouTube videos or Instagram videos where girls are applying the loose powder underneath the eye area to set the concealer. They're doing it in a really thick consistency, and then they dust it and brush it off afterwards. And what it helps to do is it really helps to sit in the fine lines in order to set the foundation and the makeup so that it doesn't go anywhere and it doesn't crease as easily. Now, depending on your skin, how mature your skin is, this may or may not be the best thing for you to use because you don't want to apply too much product that would eventually sit and crease in any finer lines that you may have. So that is something that you want to think about too when you're applying product. Less is more. Okay, and then the last thing regarding powder is a pressed powder. So pressed powders generally come in a container like this. Sometimes they have a little sponge with them, but they are not loose. These are great to carry around with you, easy to apply throughout the day if you wanted to. And I know a lot of women who use the Bare Minerals powders because they like how fast and easy they are, that you can just kind of swoop it over the skin with your brush or your sponge and get an even complexion without having to fuss about any other products or whatever. And if that's the case, then that's awesome. The pressed powders are great for reapplying, retouching throughout the day just because they're so compact. And you can get different, you can get like full coverage. So for example, like MAC has their Studio Fix, which is a really full coverage pressed powder, which is really popular. So if you're reapplying that throughout the day, just know that you're going to be putting product on top of product on top of product. Whereas if you put your product on at the beginning of the day and you need to touch up with anything, just to touch up in small areas, just so that it isn't, by the end of the day, it doesn't look like you have so much product on your face. So another thing that you could use is a translucent pressed powder. Where's my, Urban Decay. It's in my thing. Urban Decay has this powder called the All Nighter Setting Powder, and it's translucent and mattifying. So if you find something that's translucent and mattifying, meaning no color and minimizing of oils, it's great to touch up with that, something like that, because it's going to help to minimize shine in the skin. It helps to even the complexion a little bit without adding really a lot of color. And it's something you're putting on after you've already put your makeup on. And it's great because you can do this continuously throughout the day. And at the end of the day, when you go to wash your face, you don't have a ton of makeup on. The nice thing about the Urban Decay All Nighter Setting Powder too is that it is waterproof, which is amazing. So really, really great for weddings. If you're wearing your makeup all day and you don't want it to go anywhere, which who wants their makeup to go anywhere? Nobody. So that's really helping to have your makeup last longer because it's waterproof. So if you are crying, if you are sweating or anything like that, it really does help. So yeah, I think that's it. It's a lot of information, but like I said, it is really important to know and understand the difference between all the products that are out there because it's so overwhelming. And if you don't wear a lot of product, but you want to get into using something, one or two things in your daily routine or to have for when you're going out, it can be really overwhelming. And like I said before, like I love Sephora, it's great, but even as a makeup artist, it is really overwhelming to go in there, especially when you don't know what you're looking for, or if you're like, I'm looking for foundation, but I have no idea where to even start because there's just so many options, and there's so many great reviews about so many products, and then also bad reviews about products based off of personal experience of people. So I hope that this helps. You might have to like write some stuff down or take notes or something to kind of really get the gist of all the stuff that I just talked about. But if you do have any questions, definitely make a comment, and I would love to be able to answer any of your questions. And I hope that this helps some of you who are struggling with that, because it's a very common thing that I've talked to so many women about in terms of, just not knowing. And the last thing too, just about the foundation aspect, is that you can wear foundation without it looking and feeling like foundation. It's all in the way that you're applying it. And having a makeup artist help you is really important. So when you're going shopping, make sure that you're talking to somebody who, a beauty advisor who helps you feel comfortable and confident before you leave. Customer service is so huge when it comes to being able to shop for something that is not easy to shop for, especially when it comes to makeup. And having an experience where you go into a makeup store and there's nobody to help you, or they make you feel dumb for some of the questions you might ask, it's not fair and it's not nice. So, if you need to talk to somebody else or go to another store and find somebody who really wants to take the time to sit down with you and explain to you, what it is that you're using and how to use it properly. And if they can demonstrate it on your face for you, that's going to be the best way for you to be able to feel the product, see the product, maybe have them explain how to put the product on. Because, as somebody who's worked in retail, that's the best feeling, to be able to have somebody sit down, not really know what they're looking for, put the product on the client, and be able to say, look, I know you were looking for a BB cream, but try this light to medium foundation. Look how it looks, see how it looks, feel how it feels and how it doesn't feel heavy or like that typical foundation that you're afraid of it looking like, in terms of seeing, lines and pores and all that kind of stuff, because that's going to be the best way for you to really try the product out. And then also know and understand what the return policy is, so that if you don't like the product, that you can bring it back, exchange it, or do a refund or whatever. So I hope that this helps. And I would love for you to subscribe to my channel. And if you do have any inquiries in terms of makeup applications, like I said, I am in the GTA and I do have a website. It's www.whataprettyface.ca, and you can see some of my work on there in terms of my makeup, and I do lash extensions as well. And I just got into spray tanning, which is so fun, especially coming into spring and summer. Happy spring, by the way. And if you have questions, like I said, please, I love answering questions. So thanks again, and I'll see you on my next video. Have a great day.